Oh man. Well, I was planning on doing this later on in the day, but there's been a lot of ridiculousness and uncertainty that has propelled me to want to, I guess, do this earlier. And if I get interrupted, I'll just pause it and see if we can salvage the rest of the stream. There was a person who's supposed to be delivering something over here, and they said this about an hour ago. And I have an issue with this because commonly with this person, when they say they're going to do something, there's not a time period given by them because they have this expectation that you're just supposed to sit there and be available whenever they want to do something. Um, and that's not the case for me, at least on Saturdays. So they're supposed to be coming in a half an hour, which I don't believe because I know the way they are, and they like to take their time in doing things and making stuff, you know, be more drawn out than it needs to be. Tomorrow I might stream. I might put up this video. I wrote out a really good script, at least in my opinion, for this upload. It's on a topic I've been waiting to address for a while, and I'll try to put up 2 Dragon Ball videos next week because I have a few scripts written for that too. Like, just they're not done, but they're far enough in to where if I feasibly just sit down and write out the rest of it, I can probably finish 2 of them by the I'd say midway through next week by Tuesday, Wednesday. On days I don't stream. So that's that. Um, what else happened? Oh yeah, this was actually a pretty lousy week. So outside of me putting up 42, which I was glad because that was basically something that was supposed to come out 2 weeks ago, and then what happened was that I got this overambitious desire to put it out with 43 to do them both together. And so I got about halfway through editing 43, and then I noticed something. One of the VAs hadn't turned a line in. It was a one-word line, and I said, you know what, that's human error. I'll just ask them for this line, and then they'll probably do it the next couple of days. It has now been over almost this upcoming Tuesday. It will be 2 weeks since I informed them of this, and I have not received either a single message indicating when they can do it. I haven't heard back at all. And again, keep in mind, this is a one word line, and they're taking 2 weeks just to tell me when they can do it, much less actually do it. So that's why I said that a lot of times when it takes a while for some edited thing with voice acting to come out, it's not because it actually takes 4, 5, or 6 weeks to make one of those. It's just me waiting for these people to do their part. So that was annoying, and I decided I'm going to go and do the one after that, which is 44. And then as I was editing that, I said, wait a second. Oh my God. So late last year, there was a voice actor who accidentally sent the same files twice as 44 and 45. So it's basically like if I was recording lines for something called episode 2, and I send the lines for episode 1 instead. You accidentally send the same thing twice, thinking it's 2 different things. And this person, they responded seemingly decently when informed of this. They said they would do it by the end of the week, and then here we are 7, 8 months later, and they still haven't done it. And like I said, I always think about the one instance where I had a VA try to claim that I was so demanding and whatnot. And I always remember that because when I think about how often I will give people extra time to do things, and except if they make some kind of error, and I always say that the only stipulation I have is that you communicate when you can possibly do this. So I'm not just sitting here waiting forever with no indication of when that waiting will eventually be over. It gets really disappointing that I can do all of those things to accommodate people and then still have individuals who will blame me for when someone decides to quit or not do their part. But that's why I said that's me on all these different topics. I just get blamed for everything everybody else does. It's really terrific. I should change my channel name to Scapegoat from every instance of me getting blamed for what other people do. This person didn't record lines. That must be your fault. Yeah, that's really crazy. Now, I got really excited for this month at the start of it because I was doing like a whole bunch of different editing for multiple installments of the show, and I was really thinking we can do 3 of those in 1 month for the first time ever, because I had most of 42 done, I had most of 43 done, I had a little bit of 44 done, so I was gonna mainly focus on that one, and they ruined it. So thanks for that. Man, people just, it's like I said, if someone's not affected by something, they don't care. That's why when I think about that one server I was in where they were saying I was selfish because I wouldn't talk to chicks anymore, I'm like, the person that gives people as long as they need to record stuff so that they can accommodate his thing with their actual real life is selfish. Oh man, that is crazy. That's why I said a lot of stuff people write online. You just have to kind of let it roll off your back because it's literally just the Twilight Zone. Giving green cards to foreign students, Ro Khanna's new proposal. I don't really have a problem with it. Yeah, I've mostly been staying away from a lot of the. I think I mentioned to you before, Ruben. Just the political stuff for the last 4 months has been kind of lame because it's just the virus and some protests, and now everyone is giving tributes to John Lewis, this congressman that I guarantee you, I will bet everything I own on the fact that 90% of people, whether they live in Georgia, the district that he was representing, which is again a part of Georgia, or all of the US, couldn't name a single bill that he co-sponsored. I guarantee you. I guarantee. That's why it's really crazy when people try to, like, when I'm reading stuff on here and they're saying crap about he was such a great man, one of the most important people ever. And I'm like, look, I don't dispute that he did important things, but if nobody knows what the hell he did, then what is the point of pretending? Because remember, the only civil rights people that actually get, real accolades are MLK and Malcolm X, and that's pretty much it. We already talked about the total screwing over that Ralph Abernathy has, where that was King's top guy, and gets almost no mention whatsoever. The guy who literally took over the Southern Christian Leadership Conference after King's death. You hear nothing about him. People know him as a civil rights activist, but what do they know that he did? I didn't see a single one of those clowns on Twitter talking about, I'm going to miss him so much. I didn't see a single one mention him as the last living member of the Big Six. Not a single one. And I read several, at least 100+ comments yesterday just scrolling. I did see a lot of John Lewis lovers policing anything that the right wing says about him. I saw Mitch McConnell give his condolences to Lewis, and the Lewis lovers immediately responding with, well, they get mad whenever you say anything. Like, it's funny, they were talking about how one of the Congress members had told Trump to not say anything. And then he comes out with this really tepid response where he's like, oh, I was saddened which I don't know how you construe that as a bad thing. And then they just went out. I just think it's really pathetic when you try to pretend that you love some historical figure so much and then you can't name anything they did. I told you I had this one person who like was trying to defend Obama because I was trashing him, and I asked them to actually name what he did while he was president. The only thing they could say was Obamacare. They couldn't tell you about restoring relations with Cuba. They couldn't tell you about the Iran deal. They couldn't tell you about him ending the Iraq War and then going back a few years later, continuing Afghanistan. There's nothing. Expanding the surveillance state. Just totally clueless. But that's somebody that they like. And they know nothing about that, next to nothing about that person. I saw a guy get flamed in response when he brought up what Lewis, yeah, that stupid, I didn't say Bernie comment that he made. Well, I told you that him and, Clyburn and the rest of them, they're all just people who the Democrats throw out there to make you think that they're actually doing something for black people. And then it's like, oh yes, Lewis fought for freedom, and then you remember that he vote to stay in Libya and destroy that country. But again, this is the peace lover, and most of the people that are giving him the little celebration thing on Twitter, I guarantee you don't know about those votes, because this isn't. Most people, from the way it appears, when they go around and they praise individuals, don't actually know anything about the people they're praising other than one or two things. They do the same thing with King. I know a lot of people, the only thing they can mention about him was his death and I Have a Dream. They couldn't tell you what school he went to. They couldn't tell you how old he was. I mean, just nothing. That he got stalked by the FBI for the last 5 years of his life. They couldn't, not just buffoons. They want to fit in. No, you're right in there with them. I bet you love couldn't tell us one thing John Lewis did as a congressman other than maybe a comment or two. Not one single bill that he was a co-sponsor of. And you love wouldn't be alone, because that's my point I'm making, that I'm gonna do a whole video on called The Death in the Limelight, where you get completely ignored while you're alive, even though you're such a great person, according to people after you die. And then when you pass, we're gonna tell you about what kind of a guy he was. So if he was so great, why did you ignore him when he was alive? I think that's a fair point. Now that you are deceased, I love you. I remember this one person was like, oh, you can't say bad things about certain. I'm not saying anything bad about him. I'm saying bad things about people's response to him. That is strange, man. It really is. And it's people that get ignored basically their entire lives, all of a sudden being thrusted upon as these great people. They did the same thing to Cummings. And Rubin pointed out, he said, all these people that were talking about how important of a man that was, you notice that on my channel, there's not a single video about Cummings up until he died. And there's not a single video about Lewis either, because they really were not figures that the media or most people who are in the current sphere of politics actually paid attention to. Yeah, I can't wait to have tributes on Twitter talking about how smart I was and I was so important, and then you go and you look and you see that there's almost no tweets about me before I died. How much you willing to bet because I see they're posting comments on Lewis's last tweet. How much you willing to bet that if I go on there right now and I look through all of his tweets from before the last one he wrote, you're going to see not even a tenth of the replies and likes on that second to last tweet of his. Because people don't care. When you are alive, you get treated like dirt. And then if you die, you're magically a much better person than you were when you were alive. Or actually, someone much better in the sense that people begin to treat you in the way they should have treated you when you were living. Just like with the older Bush, when he died, all these people, oh my God, what a wonderful man. But you saw I had a video on him from earlier that year before he died, where I talked about how underrated he was. Because I don't play this stupid game where after someone's passed, I love this person. It's stupid. Okay, Ruben says the Democrats are suddenly rushing more schemes for taking over the nation with the voting rights bill, making DC a state, making Puerto Rico a state, and some others that I can't remember. Ruben, listen, we know that once they name a city after you, you won't be saying anything anymore. That's going to be part of their scheme to take over the U.S. They're going to silence all of the people who are noticing this by giving them some reward. So if they give us a Ruben alleyway, Mr. Pandemonium over there will remain silent. And remember when I was important, when I died, not when I was alive and people actually said good things about me. It took me passing on for them to actually realize what they had. I can't wait for when it happens to me. You're gonna have some idiot come on here and be like, "He was so smart. Women should have definitely given him a chance." It's like, thanks for saying that now that I'm no longer alive. I appreciate that. Thanks for saying it when it no longer matters. People are just, they say this stuff and they do these little things because they basically are almost self-aware that the person they're trying to praise now, they didn't give a hoot about when they were alive, and now they're like making it up. Guarantee you in a week or two, you're not going to hear his name at all. It's funny. People like to talk about contributions of African Americans to society, but the only ones they bring up are ones that everybody latches onto, or that they were around to see. Oh, and they love martyrdom. So if you get shot, you have a much higher chance of being remembered. I told you about MLK's mentor, Benjamin Mays, where he was the president of Morehouse for almost 30 years, and you never hear his name at all. And then they want to trick you into thinking that people actually care about someone doing the right thing. It's like, you guys write 90 books about someone that was only famous for 10 years, but then someone that was doing stuff for decades. You're not only going to not make a movie about, but you're also going to not write any novels about, other than maybe 2 people, if that person's lucky. I really do want to do that video, top 10 best forgotten African Americans, just various important Black people who, because they didn't die in some screwed up way, you just never hear about. Because it's true. People love, sensational BS. See, the Democrats are suddenly rushing more schemes for taking over the nation with the, oh, okay, I already read that. Ruben, write a new comment, because you love has been silenced. Somebody must have blocked him. We gave him a Thanos snap. Still need to get that Infinity Gauntlet. Imagine I'm just like, oh, someone wrote something stupid. Time to time to grab the gauntlet. You will know what it's like to lose. It is funny watching those videos of people speculating on the MCU. Like, the next villain's going to be Galactus, even though the Fantastic Four still haven't shown up. So why the hell would one of their villains show up? I just hate that the only time we ever saw that character in live action was as a stupid cloud in a lackluster movie that everybody hated. All right, give me a second. All right, sorry about that. Man, is the comment section disabled? Why am I writing anything? I guess we just came here to hear me talk. Anyways, the person actually held up to their end of the bargain, as in they came earlier than I thought they were going to come. So if I get interrupted again, that's because of them. I think it's very pathetic that people, because I take the time whenever I discuss something to state it clearly. I don't have gargled audio and I don't speak in riddles. And I know that some buffoon will say, "He disrespected John Lewis. How did he do this?" Like, no, I was just talking about the fact that it seems as if people have a very short attention span when it comes to most civil rights figures. Like I said, I'm willing to bet that most people who are sitting over here celebrating him and whatnot can tell you very little about anything he actually did. Like, sure, they can name that he was a civil rights activist, but what was he a part of? What did he in particular do in relation to the civil rights movement? And then, he was a congressman for 30 years, or some lengthy period. But I guarantee you they couldn't name a single bill that he co-sponsored, a single vote that he had. You know, I find that so pathetic because we're seeing the same stupid thing happen that they did with Cummings. What a great man. What did he do? There's actually a part of me that regrets doing the stream I did in tribute of him because I really don't like doing that thing of I ignored you while you're alive, but now I love you. Probably the only congressman I really have any right to do like a big tribute video for if they, like when they die or if they die when I'm alive is probably Ro Khanna. Because that's at least someone I've made over a dozen videos on. So it's not just a person who people say is important, but then no one actually talks about. Like if Clyburn, when he dies, hopefully not soon, but at some point, people are going to go, "Oh, he was such a great man. He was such a leading example of grace and eloquence," and all this fluff that doesn't actually tell you what he did. And I think that's sad. I know I'm using my uhs a lot because I think one of the bigger parts of history that needs to be examined is who actually matters. Who do people bring up recurringly and know things about? That's why I said it was really disturbing to me that people who claim they love Obama could not tell you what schools he went to, could not tell you a majority or a totality of things that he did in office. Whether when he was a senator, which was kind of lackluster, I'll admit. So I don't blame people for not remembering that, or when he was, president, which is apparently the period that everybody remembers so fondly now. I think that's really sad. Because, like I said, even with people I don't like, I still try to actually know things about them that would make me, whether it be a fan of theirs or neutral, or have disdain or distaste for them. But apparently people, I said before, ignorance is really just kind of what rules the day over in the US. Because I've even talked about my own education, the fact that a lot of the schools I went to, when they did mention presidents, it was very briefly, and usually it was just this one or two things. And I didn't like that because you can summarize a topic without glossing over it so much to where you learn virtually nothing about the person that is supposedly important. I had a history book when I was in 10th grade, and there were literally two lines about MLK. One line was the I Have a Dream speech. The other line was he got murdered 5 years later. And, I'm like, we have a holiday for this person. And people have made movies and whatever, but it seems the prevailing thing is just to discuss those two things. It's weird to me. I agree that Puerto Rico should be a state, but finally Ruben wrote a comment. I was so worried about him. Where did you go? I agree that Puerto Rico should be a state, but DC should get merged into either Maryland or Virginia. So that's how I know that the Democrats are full of crap and they're prioritizing DC over Puerto Rico to boot. They're going to merge the two into one. I already told you that all this stuff they're doing now is just political posturing. Like a lot of the really big black Democrats that are not Obama, they usually only bring out for, southern states where a lot of the older African Americans are conservative. This was why you didn't see Clyburn with Biden up until he got in the SC, where he was, he had a lead, but it was going down. And, he had to come in there and sit and swoop in and save the day. And then once that was over, he went back to being a nobody, do nothing, completely ignored congressman. I had to talk to some guy knocking my door. I mean, it's fine. I'm not upset at you in particular. It's just it's nice when people leave comments because I always hear this wonderful little myth about, oh, I love streams because we get to talk to each other. And then there's like a big period where no one's actually saying anything other than me. Like I might as well have just done a video. Yeah, there are a lot of that's why I said there are a lot of really important people who by virtue of us having itty bitty memories, like not everybody, but just in general, we don't pay that much attention to, or if we know who they are, we know very little about them, which is sad. Um, because I bet if I, and this is what kind of really pisses me off about this stuff, you can go on any of the congressional websites having to do with the House votes, well, there's really only one, but you can go on there and you can find a majority of Lewis's votes, of Cummings' votes, any of these people that are now getting praised as these titans for freedom. And nobody wants to do that. You know, they don't want to actually learn what these people did in office. They just want to, you know, after they die, pretend they were these very important people to them when you look on their timeline and you can find out the reverse was true. Like if I have more videos on Liz Cheney than these people have tweets on on Lewis, you know there's something wrong. Clyburn said that abolishing/defunding police is a bad idea, which infuriated the protesters because Clyburn's entire existence refutes their entire worldview. Well, I told you that whenever you're a black person who has a view that is not part of the ongoing narrative, then you're automatically, you know, not a good person anymore. Like you remember, I came out and said people getting mad that white people voice minority characters is stupid, and you know, you have some who are like, oh, well, this will help more, I don't know, voice actors of color to get roles. I'm like, yeah, but think about how dangerous that is. Like with my show, I have white people voicing black characters. I don't care. They're not doing stereotypical voices. They're just doing a voice that I think is befitting of the character. I'm not going to say, hey, because of this thing you have no control over, you are no longer allowed to do this part. Like it's a really dangerous view to have, in my opinion. But whatever. There was a time when John Lewis was actually decent, but none of these people mourning his death were aware about that. Yeah, they don't know about that. Ugh. Like I said, most of the blacks in Congress, especially the ones that are in the House, it just feels like too many of them are not willing to actually be any different than the whites that are in there. Like, I looked at Clyburn's votes, and he's basically just the black version of Steny Hoyer. They're these really moderate and there's nothing. I'm not saying that because he's of a certain race he has to vote differently. I'm just saying that when you look at their records and they appear to be very similar, there's not really any point in saying that things would be different if we had more minorities in office, if they vote the same way as the, you know, the non-minority members. There is only around 10 prominent VAs in U.S. animation. Tom Kenny voices hundreds of characters. Yeah, him, Tara Strong, Cree Summer, you know, those people. Frank Welker. There are only around 10 prominent VAs. I couldn't even name 10. Oh, Steve Bloom, the guy that does, let's see, he did Starscream on Prime. He did, Green Goblin on Spectacular. So I guess that's 5. He did Amon on Korra. But you get what I was saying. I just think there's something wrong with the idea that someone's voice is similar to, you know, blackface or one of those other costuming schemes that are considered racist at this point. The idea that just because someone's not the ethnicity of their character, that's like a problem. But again, I'm crazy for thinking that. Presley reminded us about how House impeached Trump. There has been a trend with the Democrats bragging about the House impeaching Trump despite Trump still being in office, the entire purpose of impeachment. Well, that's why I said it was stupid, because we already knew it wasn't going to actually matter. Since the Democrats are never going to apparently have a supermajority in the Senate, and people know that the Republicans are going to stay by Trump no matter what because they want to keep their jobs, it was literally doomed from the start. Like, it was set up to fail. That's why I don't understand the point of getting all excited over this, or understood the point of getting excited over that, because I knew it was going to end up the way that it did. And it doesn't mean I'm smart or I'm some kind of political mastermind. Everybody could see it. Remember, they say the complicit Republicans. Well, if you knew that, then what was the point of having a trial where you had all these hours of people? Like, it was just a complete waste of time. So I said I really wish people would stop letting their emotions run wild and think about things logically, because logic would dictate that there was no conceivable way in hell, based off of the way that both parties had control of certain chambers, that impeachment was going to go anywhere. But people don't care, as long as they can wag their finger on social media, they feel accomplished. Mark my words, the Democrats lose 2020. This will be how they will sabotage Biden's giant lead to yet another attempt to impeach Trump. Well, they should have waited until he got a second term and did him like Clinton, where he wasn't going to run anymore and people weren't going to have to worry about him framing himself as some big victim during the next election, as he's doing now. Oh, God, man. Politics in America is such a joke. But look, I have considered the Barbara Lee documentary that we were talking about. I'll look into her record. I'm really trying to not get caught up in what's a good way to put it, all the different bills and whatnot. I'll probably see if I can find a way to find everything that she's had signed into law, and then after that, I'll compile whatever I think is the most important. Remember, it's a little bit harder to do it with members of Congress, because, especially members of the House, because I have to include all the different times they ran and the percentage they won by and whatnot. So I'll try to see if I can do it maybe this week. I'm just juggling a lot of things on my plate. Like, I still got to do that video about that snake. So mark my words. I will mark them. I'll write them down. I'll burn them into my memory. I'll make sure that I remember them. Oh, by the way, Ruben, I don't know if you saw this comment, but there was a guy on my video who was like, "Start a gaming channel." And then left some other comment where he was saying how nobody's caring about the important things I talk about, while broads get 1 million views or something. And I'm like, why the hell, if I wanted to increase my views, would it make sense to make another channel with no subs on it? Like, I told you, people don't even care. They just write whatever. Another prominent figure whose record you should investigate, Monica Lewinsky. There is a campaign from the left wing to rehabilitate Lewinsky to make up for how left wing destroyed Bernie's presidential election. Yeah, she was. It's so crazy, because I told you I got into politics, like following it regularly, in 2013. Up until that last election cycle, I literally don't remember her doing anything. Like, she was just, missing in action. And then all of a sudden, people start bringing her up over and over. So I'll consider it. But again, I am more interested in doing members of Congress because I don't think you're going to get anyone to do a video about just certain people who I think are important. Like I want to do one on Grassley. I want one on McConnell, Orrin Hatch when he was still in there. You know, there are a lot of people who I just don't think are going to actually get something that I'm not trying to make myself sound important, but I just don't think other people are going to try to do it on those types of people. And yes, I'll stop regurgitating the word people. What else was I going to say? Yeah, I still have this almost full script for this other DB video, but I'm debating if I. It's one of those things where you finish writing something, and then the more you think about it, you don't really know if you can say it in the right type of way. Um, so that's why that's taking a little bit longer. Also, I agree with you. Make what you feel are most important. Well, you got to remember one of the guiding principles of doing those was if it was on a certain person that I didn't think was getting covered enough. And also, I am still kind of bitter about the reception to the Kissinger one where we only got like, I mean, I'm fine with about 100 views, but then it's like no one commented. I'm like, so I really just sat here and worked on this thing for 3 or 4 days for nobody to say anything. All right. Man, people do not care. They're just like, whatever. The new political political realignment. Dershowitz was in the Clinton administration. Oh man. Ruben didn't write any new comments. I'm so disappointed. I don't know. I've been kind of, I think what happens is every time I do like an edited video, it's like a fight between how much effort are you going to put into this, and also what is the likelihood people are actually going to watch it. And I'm so tired of doing a whole bunch of editing for, such a lack of response from people. Like, I don't expect to get 1,000 views or anything, but people they don't comment, they don't, just nothing. And then people say, you sound entitled. How could you want people to watch something that you actually put effort into? Like, well, hell, everybody on here that puts up a video, unless it's private or unlisted, does it for the sake of someone watching it. I forgot to mention Trump was a Democrat during the Clinton years. Basically, we are in the middle of what is a second Southern strategy. Well, I think in this second Southern strategy, the Republicans might really lose Texas. I mean, you saw O'Rourke almost walloped Cruz. Man, it's like, how do you brag about winning in a state that hasn't elected a Democrat as senator in 30 years? You remember Lloyd Benson, right? Joe says, LOL, I tune in and the whole comments is filled with, I mean, so what? We're having a conversation. Is he only allowed to type 3 comments before somebody else writes something? That's the one that was the running mate for Dukakis in the '88 election. He was the last Democrat elected senator in Texas. Yeah, the '80s were the last time. So Sinema won against McSally, but before that, there had been 30 years without a Democrat getting elected senator in Arizona. It was Arizona and Texas that, for 30 years, hadn't elected a Democrat to the Senate. And I think Alabama as well. Yeah, it is your turn. I don't know who unbanned you because I had you blocked. I pulled out my Infinity Gauntlet and you were gone. I'm still mad at you for asking me if I like Dragon Ball after I made like 20 or 30 different videos on it. Like, well, you criticize. Well, people are allowed to not like certain things about stuff they like. We do that with people that we're friends with. We don't like certain things that they do, but if you still like it overall, it is what it is. Yeah, people have. Speaking of Dragon Ball, we got the what do you call it? Leaks for the next chapter, so 62. And man, that thing was terrible. What have you been doing this whole time? Watching good movies and taking care of your health, I hope. Well, I was writing some scripts because I got about 3 or 4 different ideas for the relationship stuff that I've been kind of putting off because I've been trying to be consistent with having like at least a weekly Dragon Ball video. So that's why I guess that's the main thing I've done, along with some editing for some other stuff. Yeah, really the only thing I feel like I've neglected is probably the documentaries, but that's just because it's really hard to get excited about doing those when you know that people aren't going to watch it. I completely think it's okay to criticize something you like. Now, I remember that comment. You're like, you criticize it, so I was wondering if you even like it. Well, hell, I say that the Cell Saga is my favorite part of Z, and it's still, toward the end has things I don't like. That's another theme of the new political realignment, the Democrats being obsessed with eulogizing John McCain. Well, it's funny because they're like, they're basically they're like, oh, we didn't agree on everything, but he had integrity. I'm like, well, Collins had enough integrity to buck all these challenges to her over voting for Kavanaugh, and you guys are, treating her like trash, even though she voted more consistently with your positions than McCain did. So it's they like people for the same reasons they don't like people. I guess I didn't watch, and apparently not. November 2020 is election day. Better show up. How can a whole month be election day? I'm gonna show up on November 29th. Oh, I'm voting. All the way at the end of the month. Josh Hawley is gaining prominence with Republicans. Yeah, he's of all the new Republican politicians, it's him and Crenshaw that have been like really accelerating in terms of prominence. I've noticed that out of the ones that were elected in that last midterm. And I guess maybe Blackburn a little bit, but not that much. The thing with her is we're just kind of accepting the fact that her and Hawley are going to be around for a long time because they're in solid red states. So we're going to have to stare at those two for the next 30 years. Because the Democrats don't have a snowball's chance in hell of beating them. And then I guess that Tommy Tuberville, whatever that guy's name is now in Alabama, we're going to be staring at him for a long time too. Yeah, it's a really just kind of disillusioning thought that even though these elections haven't been held yet, you already know who's going to stick around and who's not. And then it's like, well, all these Republicans have safe seats that they don't have to worry about ever getting thrown out. All the squad members are getting challenged by right-wing Democrats. And the only one that we know for a fact is not going to lose is AOC. Because everybody knows who she is and they talk about her all damn day long. Oh my God. What a terrible climate. I should do another Roe video. I haven't. I'm glad Ruben brought up that green card thing earlier. I haven't done a video on him in a long. When was the last time I did one on him? Let me go look. I think it's been at least a month. UBI for the virus. That was really 2 months. Damn. I make him want to do 2 videos on him this week. I'm gonna just make like a list of members of Congress and just do videos on them every week. Like Manchin. He is a really important senator, whether I like him or not, and I don't. I feel that Amy McGarth is actually going to beat the really old McConnell, who is now being seen by the right wing the same way that Pelosi is by the left wing. Ruben, I would believe that if it weren't for that last, I just see this cycle with him as being the same as 2014, where the Democrat in that cycle was a right winger and kind of like McGarth, like moderate Democrat leaning crap. So she disenfranchised certain liberal voters in that state, and McConnell capitalized on that. You go back to those political commentary videos that you did before. What do you mean that I did before? I still do them. What? Go back to that thing you did before and are currently doing. McConnell is a virus himself. Whatever. Personally, I think Pelosi is a lot worse because if someone already knows to hate another person, but then the person that people don't hate is doing the same thing, that's a problem. I don't know where Joe's been. Yeah, but the difference here is that McGarth isn't just pro-Republican, she's pro-Trump. That's why I feel that McGarth will win and become the second Joe Manchin. Probably even worse. Jesus Christ. Yeah, she's again, if she wins, whatever. I'm not hedging my bets. There's just too much stuff that I'm used to when it comes, like, people just say one thing about, oh, this person's gonna lose or win, and then they end up winning. So again, if it happens, it happens. I still haven't done that video on Collins I was gonna do, where I was gonna take like basically explain why I support her getting another term. Dislike her too. Oh, are you talking about Pelosi you love? Because there are a lot of hers that have been mentioned. I don't know if you're talking about McGarth or that broad that ran in 2014 against McConnell. I don't know which one you're speaking about. It's probably McGarth or Pelosi you're saying you dislike. Hey, Ruby, you know what'd be funny? If McGarth wins, that means we're going to have a second right-wing Democratic senator named Amy after Klobuchar. He put Pelosi in cap locks. Like I couldn't read it if he just wrote her name regularly. Yeah, she's really terrible. She actually has a pretty cool guy that's running against her in this cycle. But whenever you challenge one of those big members, like leaders in one of the chambers, it doesn't look pretty. Which is really sad because he's actually a pretty, really like left-leaning person from what he said. Oh yeah, Collins is just constantly getting just treated like garbage. At least McSally is definitely going to lose to what's her name's husband in Arizona. And you saw that goofiness in Georgia where the governor appointed what's her name Loeffler as the senator, and that was over. The representative by the name of Collins, so he's challenging her, and it's like a four-way race or something. He's literally going to make her Luther Strange 2.0, where they get appointed to a Senate seat, and then they're only in there for a year because they lose the election to actually pick who's going to win that seat. And that's crazy. Yeah, these spoilers for this next chapter are really kind of disillusioning. I mean, they're doing some stuff I like, but they're still getting on my nerves. And the chapter comes out on Monday, so I'll probably stream about it. Maybe, I don't know. But yeah, I do plan on doing a video on Dore, because he said some stuff that I thought was actually pretty intelligent a few days ago. And usually he says stuff I like, but this when he talks about international issues, I get a lot more interested in it because that's usually where him and me agree more often. So I'll probably put that out, at some point this week. Yeah, we need like a list of all the people that are getting a documentary. I remember I actually wrote down a list of like 20 senators I was going to do, but I got kind of tired because that stuff gets a little overwhelming when you don't focus on one person. Yeah, what a aggravating week this has been. Like you can't make your video because people won't record lines. Um, you get these leaks for this chapter that you've been waiting for a whole month, and they're not that cool. The keys on my computer were acting up. Just oh my god, just lousiness all the way through. And like that one silver lining you had was just for that one day. The whole rest of the week is just trash after trash after trash. And I still have to do the excrement employers. Was it 4? Because I've been putting that off for a while. Um, Maybe I might just do it like bi-monthly, like every 2 months, do one of those. Just really annoying. Yeah, my chat is dead. They don't want to say anything. Joe came on here accusing me of abandoning my signature style of video, and then he vanished. Um, I'd say out of the people who are next going to get discussed in the Was Wasted series is probably a tie between Hit and Kaba. Now it's fine, Ruben. I don't expect one person to, sustain the life of a whole chat. I'm not ridiculous. Man, Kaba got treated so badly in Super. Like he's the first Saiyan from his universe to be able to transform, and then by the time of the next tournament, he gets completely sidelined for Kale and Khalifa. Have you seen the recent waves against Bill de Blasio by all sides of the media now? Yeah, over his handling of the police and the protest scandals in New York City. They got this one person saying some stuff on here. Wow. Yeah, the art in that next chapter looks really good. I just don't think we're gonna, actually get a story that's really good. It's like the art is nice, but the tale isn't. Do you think Trump knew about Putin putting a bounty on the American soldiers? No. I wish people would stop doing that where they're like, Trump is so stupid. He doesn't know what he's doing. And then Trump was secretly masterminding with Putin a plan to get rid of Americans. It's like, is he dumb or is he this evil genius who's betraying the U.S.? Pick a tale, a narrative to spin. So I said that whole Russiagate thing was just. I feel like if we ever actually do have people evaluate this era just of politics, they're gonna call Maddow a conspiracy theorist. And it'll be lovely. Like they'll make us sound. They'll make not me in particular, but just people in general believing the Russia stuff to sound like complete idiots. It's like you impeached the man that you knew you couldn't impeach because you didn't have enough seats in the House in the Senate to do it, and then you wonder why people think so lowly of Democrats. Trump is a complete moron, and yet the resistance keeps getting outsmarted through their own incompetence. I feel there are ulterior motives to why de Blasio has been receiving negative attention recently. Remember that de Blasio endorsed Bernie this year. Yep. That's payback. The Democratic apparatus isn't going to make up for him betraying them and siding with the actual progressive in the race. Like, we haven't forgotten. Bill. This is a warning. That's why they're talking up having Andrew Yang run for mayor of New York. To get rid of de Blasio. And not even because he did something especially terrible, because Democrats do horrible stuff all the time. Look at what Cuomo was doing with the virus at first. So it's really just about getting revenge on him for endorsing the quote-unquote wrong person. It's like, Bill, you made a mistake. Oh, my God. What a strange occurrence. It's been such a lowly attended stream. I can't believe it. I think at max we had like 10 people, which I mean is not that different from the usual numbers. But I'm like, wow, really? People just vanish. Everybody's busy on a Saturday. The resistance were also outraged with de Blasio for going to the gym around the time that lockdown initially started. Yeah, I know they got upset over that too. Well, again, they're just looking for things to pick at with him at this point. Chris Hayes exploded over it. It's like, yeah, that Afghanistan video that Dore made was really nice. It does strike me as ironic that I would play his video to raise awareness of it when it's got more views than whatever I'm gonna put out. But I do add my own commentary at the end of it that I think sometimes goes along with what he says. You remember that vote, right, Ruben, from earlier this week, where it was like 60 senators voted to stay in Afghanistan and 30 something didn't. I don't know. Maybe you don't remember. Let me go see if I can find the exact, because it was on the Senate.gov website. Senate votes. I really should bookmark that website for how much time I go on there, or how often I go on there. Excuse me. Yeah, this was a July 1st vote, and it was to withdraw all United States armed forces from Afghanistan, or rather to table the amendment that would withdraw all American forces from Afghanistan. And 60 people voted to stay in that war, and 30 plus voted to get out of it. And Fox News, their enemy, was siding with Hayes, which makes their current position on lockdown laughable. Well, Fox is supposed to be the bad, horrible network that's ruining the world, right? So why are you siding with them? But I told you the only time you actually see the Fox host really going in on Trump is when he tries to get out of the war. But yeah, you're saying correctly that it makes sense for Fox to say something bad about de Blasio, but when MSNBC is doing the same thing, it seems a little stranger. Some neoliberal payback. Damn, every single Republican voted for that except Daines, Lee, and yeah, is Paul in here? Yeah. And then Murkowski didn't vote, along with Blunt, Burr, and Enzi. More Republicans and Democrats voted to leave Afghanistan. Only 3 Democrats, including Khanna and Gabbard, voted no. Do you remember when that was? Because I do want to like take that and do a video about it, or at least screenshot it and talk about it in the video. So if you can find that when that was, like a rough time frame of it, or some news article, I could go and look for where the actual vote was. Yeah, people love these conflicts. I'm actually kind of surprised by some of the people that supported this. It's like Schumer actually voted to get out of Afghanistan. That's crazy. This is now the second vote this year Schumer's had that I really like, along with the USMCA. Because he was one of, I think, 10 senators that voted against it, him and Gillibrand and Harris and Merkley and Sanders, of course. Just, wow. You know when he's out left and you're doing something wrong. The Israeli stooge is out left in you. Oh man, the circus clown for the Netanyahu government is out left in you. The Senate minority do nothing. I mean, coward is out left in you. That's crazy. Yeah, these votes are getting kind of goofy. Just when you look at the makeup of, like, a lot of times it's the same people who vote certain ways, but there are a couple of odd ones in there as well. Like, I don't live in, what is that, Montana? But if I did, I probably would keep Steve Daines in the Senate, because he has a lot of foreign policy votes I like, because he was one of the few Republicans to vote getting out of Yemen, along with Collins and Murkowski and the rest of them. Things are going to get really bad when that extra 600 in different protections goes away at the end of the month. 25% of renters in New York City haven't paid rent since March. Yeah, they're going to have mass evictions. So I would say this is the new Great Depression. People just haven't caught on yet. And remember, when they start getting kicked out, who's to say that the virus is cleared up? So you can have a resurgence of the virus from people being homeless again. I hope you're all right, Duel, because I know you're in that epicenter of the virus, which is actually about to get passed by my state. We've got, it was like 300,000 cases now. Us in Florida. Obama's relationship with Netanyahu is more significant than most people realize. Yeah, well, it's another important thing that we ignore, because, like I said, Ruben, the only thing people remember about him being president was fluff words that mean nothing, like grace and eloquence and blah, 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 and Obamacare. They couldn't tell you about how many bombs he dropped in Syria to where he ran out of bombs, just nothing. Yeah, Duel, we're right up there now with New York in terms of, people who've caught it, or at least have been confirmed to have caught it. God, it's such a dangerous period at this point. Can't even walk out your house without getting afraid of being infected. We were really heading to a second Great Depression before the virus. Michael Moore was foreshadowing another crash since 2010 while sucking up to Obama anyway. Yeah, he's one of the it's funny. He tries to pretend to be progressive, but then he also is like not wanting to completely get like what's a good way to put it? Condemn the Democrats that have been shown to be right wing in the way that they vote. Like the only right wing Democrat I do any kind of excusing for is Harris. That's only because as a senator, she's had a pretty decent voting record, in my opinion. Um, but I won't make any excuses about what she did as Attorney General. Hey, Ruben, remember the guy that got in trouble for editing her Wikipedia page like 400 times? Yeah, I saw it. You love. He got so that same person that got in trouble, they gave him a topic ban, which I didn't mention in my video because it never happened to me. But it's basically a thing where if you disclose that you have some close connection with a politician or somebody that is a subject you're editing the page of, you can't edit it anymore. Uh, so, for example, if I were to disclose that I worked for, I don't know, Schumer, which I didn't because I don't even live in New York or have any connection in whatsoever, I would not be able to edit any article pertaining to him, whether it be his main page or any of the different times he ran for Senate. Uh, no, her record was on there, and then this guy came on there and just started deleting a bunch of stuff. But anyways, he got in trouble because he had the page 400 plus times. He disclosed that he had some kind of connection to her, and so they gave him a topic ban. And then he broke it because he edited one of the articles for Biden, who he also disclosed having a connection with. Even all he did was add to be fair, all he did was add a name to a list of names on the endorsement page, but it still is something relating to Biden. So they blocked him for a week. And we haven't seen him since he got blocked. But it was funny. It's like all he came on here to do was edit, and you guys did that. That's crazy. I saw when he left, I wanted his last words to be, I came here for an encyclopedia, not a freak show. This is a waste of my time. And he logs out. Never gets seen again. Because that was how my last message was. I was like, I'm taking my talents elsewhere. Haven't edited Wiki Piss in like what, 2 months? They got me so annoyed that I stopped editing after having stopped editing after 2 weeks of returning. That's crazy. He's doing damage control definitely for Harris because he edited her page a whole bunch of times, like literally, what was it, 300, 400 times. But for Biden, he didn't actually do anything to his main article. I told you about that stupid thing they did on Biden's page where they said, let's split the Senate section and the vice presidency, and they took them and put them on their own pages. But when you make a split, you're supposed to summarize the text. You're supposed to delete the text off the main page and then summarize it with a link to the new article with that same information. So if people want to know more, they can go to that article with more detail about the topic, right? Instead of doing it as most people do, where they write a summary in place of the original text, they left the original text on the main page. So now there are 2 pages on that site with the exact same information. And look, if I hadn't been treated like trash, I might even be tempted to help them. But, after the way I was addressed, to hell with your boo-boo website. Yeah, Wikipedia is not entitled to anybody's assistance. I wish the editors on there who talk to you like, You're trash would realize that. I mean, I was just sitting there and I was like, I really let these people talk to me like that while I was doing something for their website that they claim they want all these volunteers on for free. Not anymore. Yeah, but like I said, I don't think he did damage control for Biden. I think he did it for Harris, but not Biden. And that was funny. Stop editing this page. Please stop. Go edit something else. And they only really started caring about him editing that page hundreds of times when those news articles got written about it by Intercept and the other place. So before those were written, his edits largely went unchecked. But that's what I was saying about how the people on that site, they always try to pretend they're one thing, and then you actually look at the way they, quote unquote, govern, and it's buffoonery. Yeah, he got caught, but what I'm saying is they tried to pretend like what he did was so bad only after those articles were written. Basically, this is what it was. The website got embarrassed as a whole because they let somebody go on that page and, quote unquote, make it seem promotional when they had every option to just delete his edits while he was making them. Literally, before that article got written, only one person deleted his edits. And that should tell you something. It's like I said, the only pages on there they really pay attention to are the presidents. So if it's like a senator or a congressman, they usually just let you do whatever for the most part. What will end up happening is somebody will just take it upon themselves to act like they own the page, and if you add something they don't like, they get rid of it. And then you decide whether you want to put up with that. And with me, I guess I kind of started to maybe not really think that editing was worth it anymore, because it's like, what's the point of me adding this stuff if it can just get deleted because somebody doesn't think it's important enough to be on here? Like, that's all it takes to remove something off that site. One person says this sentence or this paragraph is not important and they get rid of it, and then you just wasted your time. We should check if Warren and Klobuchar are also getting their Wikipedia pages edited as well. Or they're getting edited, but just not as often. So maybe that answers your question. And like I said, we wouldn't have known about that guy's connections to Harris if he hadn't have disclosed them. So I did a lot of stuff for that website, and they treated me very poorly. Like if someone were to eventually make an acronym for the name for like Wikipedia, the free encyclopedia, they need to make the U stand for ungrateful, because that's all that website is. They treat people that try to help them like garbage. Either Warren never lied about oh no, that is on there. They have like a whole section on her Native American ancestry thing, controversy, scandal, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, that part is on there. Jimmy Wells, the guy in charge of Wikipedia, is a big resistance clown. Well, he's not. I just want to say, even though he created the website, he's not actually in charge of the website. Like, I was on there for 8 years, and me and him never interacted with each other. He never commented on anything having to do with me. So he's just the person who made it. He doesn't actually own it. We get harassed on there. It's not him doing it. It's other people. Like he is to Wikipedia what Zuckerberg is to Facebook. He created it, but he's not, you know, he really is basically no different from any of the mods other than being the one that made the site. Yeah, I don't really care about that scandal anymore. You know, she's basically lost her prominence with that snake stuff she pulled at the end of her campaign, where she lied on Sanders. It'll be fun to watch her run again and get destroyed or demolished. Yeah, it's been such a wacky week. All right, is anybody anything else left to say? Because I'm kind of getting a little. I'm just gonna go do some other stuff. So that's basically what I'm trying to imply here. Is there anything left in the for any comments left to be made? I do need to write down all these different video ideas because it's a lot easier to do this stuff when you know that there's specific things you want done. What did Warren say? Oh, you mean that about like with her being a snake that Sanders allegedly told her during a meeting that a woman couldn't get elected president, even though he campaigned for Hillary more than any member of the Democratic Party. No, we're good. Hope you have a good weekend. I hope you do too, Duel, and stay safe. This virus is going out of control. A lot of people are catching it and unfortunately dying. All right, so thanks for showing up. I appreciate it. I might stream tomorrow, might put up a video. I'll definitely stream on Monday. Bernie campaigned more for Hillary than Hillary did. Yeah. And you saw what she did to him, where she wrote a letter where we have her on video saying she was so grateful for his help, and he had a letter where she thanked him for his help. And then a couple of years later, she wants to say he hurt me. So I said that's just the evil hoe. I'm glad she lost. One of the top 10 best things I ever did was not vote for Hillary or Trump. And I don't regret it 1 second or 1 minute at all. See ya.